Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back to this episode of our podcast, Talking Female Health, with myself, Amy, and my beautiful friend and peer, Lisa. We are really excited, as always, to be bringing this episode to you. And it follows on very much from our last episode, which was all about pooing and poo. And today we're going to start talking about peeing, wee wee, urination, whatever it is that you call it, and really dive in to explore this in a really holistic way. And these episodes follow on from our previous episodes about the lymphatic system, detoxification, the liver. Like we're trying to follow a little bit of a little bit of direction here. So if you haven't listened to those episodes, please go back and give them a listen or a watch. And yeah, let's start talking about peeing, because as with pooing, it is something that isn't given enough airtime. So Lisa and Amy are here to change that with this episode dedicated completely to PP.
Yes. Also because the credo is waste out, nutrients in. So after all the detoxification, we now need to make sure that everything that has been detoxed from your body can leave your body to keep a healthy cell environment. And only afterwards is it important to bring in the nutrients, because if your cells live in an unhealthy environment, they can't absorb the nutrients very well anyway. So peeing, the bladder, it's an issue for, I think, a lot of women and people socialized as women, because there are, apart from like the physical aspects of it, there's a lot of mental, psychological, subconscious stuff going on there that might prevent a healthy relationship with this body part and with this physical act that is so natural for the body.
Yeah. And we know the importance of hydration. We are told from a lot of different sources how many glasses of water we're meant to drink a day. Like the emphasis on hydration is very much commonplace in the health and well-being space. Yet we're not talking about the other end. We're not talking about urination, like eliminating these liquids from our bodies. And it's such an important conversation because for a lot of women, they have issues around their bladder that are deeply impacting on their health and well-being. So to me, it's really important that we have these conversations. And again, as we said in our previous episode when we were talking about pooing, it's about making sure not just the frequency, but we're talking about the quantity and the quality and the sensations around going for a wee and the environment that we're creating around it. So having your, call it the poo step, it really should be the pee poo step, like the toilet step, to make sure that you're giving your body the optimal position to eliminate your bladder. And also to fully acknowledge your body's communication with you. And for me, like going to the toilet is one of the first ways that we start to be able to listen to our body communicating to us. You know, as soon as we're toilet trained, like potty trained, we are picking up on the sensation that we need to go to the toilet and hopefully honoring that sensation. And again, as we talked about in the previous episode, but it's so important, it needs repeating, listening to your body and giving her what she needs. And when you need to go for a wee, go for a wee. And I've been in this situation before where I've been at work, I've been busy, you know, I've been in meetings or whatever's been going on, like I've been giving my focus and attention to something else, and my stomach's cramping because I need a wee, and I've been needing a wee for a long time, but I'm ignoring it. And then when you eventually go to the toilet, it's uncomfortable. It's, you know, it's not a pleasant experience because you've held it in and you've created that tension for so long. And this is something that I see is so common, not only with the women that come and work with me, but with all of the women that I know. Like they don't prioritize going to the toilet because it's seen as an inconvenience.
Yeah, and also when you say like it can be painful when you have ignored it for such a long time. The other thing that I find for myself is it doesn't really hurt, but also I know that I won't empty completely.
Yes.
Because like when I get off, half an hour later I can go again, because by then my organs are back in the place they should
Yeah.
be. The tension in my belly is back at the normal pressure that should be inside of the belly, and then the rest can come out as well. So
Yeah.
there's that part too.
Yeah, and that's really important because it's like you just said, like giving your body the environment that it needs and it deserves to be able to communicate to you what it needs. So for me, the frequency of going to the toilet is an important conversation to have because, you know, I know people that go all day without going to the toilet because it's not convenient. You know, I talk to my hairdresser, like teachers, different like, mums, like mums a lot of the time don't have time or don't make time to go to the toilet. So it's a
The
really,
question
really,
is, how much are they drinking in
yes.
comparison?
And this is
Because
it.
very often they stop drinking so they
Yeah,
don't have to go.
absolutely. So it's like, you know, the two ends meeting, like
Yeah.
keeping hydrated and being able to go to the toilet. And again, like I'm not saying this from a place of judgment or blame or like shaming anybody because I could literally talk about this for ages because it's society has created this environment where meeting our toileting needs of the body is completely seen as inappropriate, inconvenient, like it's just not a priority. And, you know, often people are in situations and they're like, oh, I couldn't ask to go to, I just don't ask and interrupt to go to the toilet. Or a lot of the times toilets aren't made available to us as well. Like that's a big thing as well, that public toilets are few and far between. So it it's not something that I'm blaming any individual for making those um that situation a part of their life, because one thing that I've noticed as my friends have become parents, and when you've got a young baby, it blows my mind that they have baby changing facilities, but there's no toilet in them. So, you know, you've got the baby, like tiny baby, all the nappy stuff and everything.
Yeah.
Mum needs a wee. If she's on her own, she cannot leave the
The
baby
baby.
to go and use the toilet. Like, and I can remember like having this realization with my friend, and I was like, when do you go to the toilet? And she's like, I just don't. And I was just like, oh my, how long has this been going on? Like, it was just this
Who
big
designed
realization.
that? Definitely
Yes,
not mothers.
exactly. And it's like this things like that that are creating this space of my needs are not important. You know, my needs, especially as women, like women as mothers, we're kind of programmed to put other people's needs before our own. And for me, talking about toilets is just the perfect example of how that transmits into public life and like the priority of the public sector and all of the things, because it's not made easy for us to go to the toilet. If anything, it's made a lot harder than it needs to be.
Yeah. And all this part around like it being inappropriate or maybe not wanted. That is one side. And on the other side, there's also this narrative around like it's a waste of time. And I know that from myself, like when I'm in the middle of
Yeah.
like I've got a flow, I'm writing an email or I'm
Yeah.
writing a blog or anything, like I don't want to go to the freaking bathroom. I
Yeah.
want to finish this
So
thing and get my
inconvenient.
thoughts out. So like I do that too on occasion where I don't go when my body
Yeah.
tells me to go because I
Oh,
want to finish something.
and we're all guilty of it. Like
Of course.
it happens like all the time. And but yeah, like for me, it's again, this like going to the toilet, listening to the body is a really nice tool, a really nice way of
Mm.
feeling more connected with your body and opening up a, a relationship with her. Like a lot of the time, I'll have conversations with clients and, I'll say, what at the end of the session, I'm like, okay, what's your takeaway? Like, what's the juiciest piece that we've shared today? And more often than not, it's like, I'm just going to go to the toilet. When I need to go to the toilet, I'm just going to
Mm.
go. Like, I'm not going to ignore my body anymore. And it's really liberating to give yourself that permission and to, yeah, allow that to happen. Like, it's almost a way of regaining agency back over your body because you're standing up for yourself and saying, actually, when I need the toilet, I'm gonna go. Like it's gonna happen.
To be very honest, it's a revolution. It's societal transformation right then and there, where we've been trained, as you say, especially as
Yeah.
women and people socialized as women, to suppress our own needs,
Mm.
to go for it and make space for that, and to basically withdraw from this idea of capitalism and extraction culture where every
Yes.
single moment of your life needs to be spent productively and going
Oh,
to the toilet is a
yes.
waste of time, because time is not something that could be wasted. And if you are interested in learning more about the concepts of time and how time is heavily colonized, a colonized concept, and how to decolonize time, uh, go to my YouTube channel. There are some amazing resources there with conversations I've held with Isha Lunar, who focuses on this aspect. But this idea that going to the toilet is something like a waste of time.
Mm.
Well, you can use it as your Zen meditation practice, for example, to just be mindful and stay mindful while you're going to the toilet and experience all the sensations that are running through your body while you pee.
Yeah.
That can be a very productive use of your time because it allows your body to rest and restore in a way. And then afterwards, that might just have been the break you needed to have then a breakthrough in your
Yeah.
work, for example.
Yeah. I love that, like that piece of it not being a waste of time because that's what it's perceived as.
Mm.
And for me, like I'm just thinking about my relationship with my bladder over the years because I'm someone who suffered with UTIs um from a young age. And again, that piece of not knowing what a healthy, like not being taught what a healthy bladder, like bladder care, pee care looked like not
Mm.
being knowing that like it's best to wipe front to back, like the basic things that were just never really taught to me in a clear way. I'm sure they were, but it wasn't like made clear why that was.
Mm.
And coming to it at a later stage in life as an adult, having to kind of relearn what works
Mm.
for you makes it a lot harder because we've got so much that we need to take on as well. And
And also, I think, like you say, it makes it harder to learn. Yes, it takes more effort to learn
yeah,
these things, but also it makes you appreciate these things more.
yes,
Because, for example, me, I come from, at least in the realm of peeing and the bladder, from a rather healthy environment. I've learned how to wipe
Yeah.
correctly to prevent infections from a very young age. And so I don't even recognize this as an important piece of information, because for
Yes.
me, it has always been there. So I like
Yeah.
to have your point of view in this, where I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that is special. That is
Yeah.
information that needs to be out there.
And I think that's the thing. It's like going back to the basics, so to speak. And one thing as well that really comes up for my clients and something I've experienced myself is going to the toilet being a painful and unpleasant experience. And, I've suffered, as I've said, I've suffered with UTIs, but I've also suffered with really bad vaginal dryness and Lynching sclerosis, which is horrendous. So there was points where it was really painful to go to the toilet, whether it was the physical act of having a wee or cleaning up afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember there was a stage in my life where my Lynching sclerosis was that bad that I'd have to go in the shower and put the shower on to have a wee because it hurt so much.
Mm-hmm.
And through this journey of like healing that and creating this better environment for me and my bladder and my vulva and everything else, I've done a lot of unconditioning. And for me, toilet roll is a no-no. Like it irritates me. It causes me like there's one brand of toilet roll that I'm okay with, but it took me a long time to realize that a big source of my irritation was actually the toilet roll that I was using. And I always knew not to buy scented toilet rolls or dyed toilet rolls, as in it had to be white, and then not having this realization that white toilet roll is actually dyed as well. Like it was just all of these things that I was unlearning. So now I use like reusable cloths to wipe myself. And like I have these conversations with other women and they're like, I've never thought of that. Like I've never understood that that could actually be a thing. And they make these small changes and it has really positive results for them because they start to not have as much discomfort when they're going to the toilet. Because if going for a wee is really painful for you, of course, subconsciously you're going to hold it in.
Yeah.
And you're not going to want that to happen. So that's the other piece as well around, we can start to, because a lot of the time, I think you'll agree here, Lisa, like when we're going through our health journeys, like a lot of the time we're relearning stuff, like unlearning.
Unlearning and relearning,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, unlearning, relearning, like challenging the status quo, so to speak. And when it comes to something as simple as using toilet roll, like I can remember having a conversation with a woman who was like just mortified that I didn't use toilet roll. Like she was just like she couldn't get her head around it. And I was just like, okay, so if you got animal poo on your hand, like or what or part of your body, would you just get a piece of toilet paper and wipe it off? Like, and she was like, no, I'd get soap and water and I'd like really clean it and I'd do whatever. And I'm like, well, it's the same concept, just using it in the bathroom rather than using like and she was like, oh, I've never thought of that. Like I've never thought of it. Like, she's just so conditioned to think hygienically you use toilet roll, you flush it away. Like so it's a really small example of how we can really change our health and well-being output for the better by unlearning and relearning one small little thing.
It's actually really interesting how this one small little thing shows how deep colonization and civilization run. Because, hey, there were times not too long ago where toilet paper didn't exist. We used like leaves or certain plants or cloth to do all these things, and there was no flushing away. That's like the the convenience of our modern society that allows it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So so interesting to just think of all the different aspects around going for a wee. And
yeah, and again, as you pointed out, the subconscious, and that's similar to the conversation we had around the poop and the pooing, is like the subconscious plays a massive role. And if you hold beliefs that it is painful to pee, it is
yes,
unwanted, it is inappropriate, it's inconvenient, it's a waste of time, then of course your body, without you consciously knowing it, will do anything it can to prevent you from drinking too much,
yes,
so you don't have to go as often, and preventing you from needing to go and having the urge so
yeah,
much.
yeah,
And we haven't even addressed things like incontinence when it comes to bladder health, and I think that warrants a different episode.
absolutely, yeah. That needs its own episode. Yeah. And
But the other thing that I wanted to mention is that, and I learned that again, I personally have quite a healthy relationship with that part of me and my body. But we learned this thing about some people going just in case. They called it just in case urination.
yeah,
So basically, going to the bathroom whenever there was a bathroom nearby, because you might not find another one somewhere. And that also plays into what you addressed with the public toilets being
yeah,
non-existent in like,
yeah,
or you having to pay when you, like here in Germany, you would maybe then ask if you can go in a restaurant, and then you have to pay a little bit of money
yeah,
to access their toilets, for example. Which is, as you say, like it's something that should be normal to have free everywhere, because it's a basic human body function.
mhm.
Like it should be basic right. A basic
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
But like this just in case urination that then trains your bladder to signal I need to pee every time you're around the toilet, because just in case.
yeah.
So
And like,
this way we are training ourselves.
and then you get like the urge incontinence where you're coming home. This is an example, like you're coming home and you know there's a toilet there. So
Yeah.
you get the urge to need a wee, which is like, I've seen this in my mum. Like we used to laugh at her. Like we'd go for a dog walk and she'd get to the end of the drive and she'd be like, I really need to like get to the toilet now
Mm.
and go for a wee. And we used to laugh at it and think it like when we were younger, think it was really funny. But like now I look back and I'm like, oh gosh, like I can see what was happening there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that I found the term just in case urination a little bit misleading, because I also go before a
I
trip
was going to say
just
this.
in
Yeah.
case.
Yeah.
But also, I drink like easily 2 liters of water every day. So I
Yeah.
do have, and that's where the input versus
Yeah.
output comes in again. Like
Yeah.
when you put in a lot, you will have a lot more output.
Yeah. I'm
Of
exactly the
course.
same. I'm like a fish. I'm drinking all the time. And I will, I go to the cinema quite a lot with my husband and I'll look at a film length and I'll be like, no, I can't go that long. I'm going to the toilet. It's not happening. I'm not willing to miss part of the film. But
Well,
again,
nowadays, at least here, when the films are really long, like 3 hours, they have breaks in between.
oh, we don't get that. We don't get that in, I don't know why, because I would appreciate that. But yeah, um,
But
it
that's
is,
again, like the expectation is you sit down and you please control your bladder
yes,
until this film is over, or you miss the film, your
yeah.
choice.
Or you miss the film, or for some people's minds, have the shame and the embarrassment of leaving
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the cinema during the film, which for some people is a big deal. Like it's a barrier for them. So yeah, I'll be honest, and I do the just in case we as well. Like, but not
But not like
all.
on a constant
Yes,
basis.
yes, not all the time. It's like if I know I'm going to be in the car for a long time, or like I said, if I'm just about to go into the cinema or somewhere where I know that I don't want to leave. It's not that I can't leave, it's just that I don't want to leave to go to the toilet. I
Mhm.
will I will have a just in case wee as well.
And just to sum these things up, it's very similar to our quote unquote advice on pooping. But like there is a frequency, so be mindful of the frequency you have and if it matches the input versus output principle,
Yeah,
because there is no general rule of thumb how much you should go to the toilet
Yeah.
in a day, but like have it match between what you drink and what comes out. Then we've got the smell and the
Yeah.
color. Do you want to
Yeah,
say a few words on that?
I think again, like your bladder, your pee can be a really good indicator of your overall health. And again, it's the way that your body communicates with you. So if you have an unpleasant smelling wee, it's an indication that there could be something wrong. I know that if I eat certain foods, like certain sweet foods or like highly spiced foods, like I will have a curry wee or I used to do you get sugar puffs in Germany?
Yes.
The cereal, yeah, because like I used to always say about the sugar puff wee as well, like when you've had a lot of sugar, you can smell it in somebody's wee.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, just to be mindful of that, if that's not normal for you, like if you see a change in the smell of your urine that you can't associate to something else, then that could be an indicator, excuse me, that something's not fully settled in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also the color. Like you can I know that there's like a Bristol stool chart for poo. I think there might be something similar for urination. I can't remember off the top of my head, but if you are having very dark or very like vibrant colored wees, and again, there's no significant reason why this is. Like, if you've eaten a certain colored food and it's coming out in your wee, then there's the correlation there. Um, but again, dark dark wee for me is when I know I'm dehydrated. Like if
Mm-hmm.
I've ever been like sickness, diarrhea, bug, something like that, and I'm just know that I'm like I've said before, I drink a lot of water. So my body's used to being really, really hydrated. So if I have times where I'm not able to drink because I'm ill or whatever the reason is, my wee will go really dark. And that's a sign for me. Like I kind of use it as an indicator as to when I'm back at
Mm-hmm.
peak hydration, when it's back to the normal color.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we should have said this in the previous episode as well, but look in the toilet. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people don't do that as well. Like, be
Oh.
curious about what is coming out of you.
Mm-hmm.
Be mindful of what's normal for you. And again, those changes can be an indicator that something's maybe a little bit off. And you will learn to understand what that means for you. Because I could say, oh, when my wee's like this, it means that I need this, but it could be completely different for you.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you feel that you could potentially have an infection as well, because this is something else that like no one ever really educated me on what a urinary tract infection was until I got one. And I was
Mm-hmm.
someone who was like unfortunate enough to have lots. I know women that have never had one or had one or two in their lifetime. But again, it's not something that's talked about in education, in like general conversation about women's health and well-being, like from a young age. So be mindful that if there's a change in the color, in the smell, in the intensity of your wee as well, like if you're needing to go to the toilet more often and you're not
Mm-hmm.
getting that sensation that you're fully empty, if it's starting to feel a little bit unsafe to go to the toilet, and what I mean by that is you can't tell whether you need to go to the toilet or not. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation. It's really hard to describe it, but you're kind of like, do I need the toilet? Don't I need the toilet? Like
I know that sensation,
yeah,
yeah.
you can't really get the message fully through. Like if anything like that is happening, that is an indication that there could be some kind of imbalance, infection. So be mindful of that as well. Um, and if you need to seek some help and advice around that, you can contact Lisa or I and discuss it with us, or you can go to your like
Doctor.
preferred medical professional, like whoever you feel comfortable having those conversations with. But yeah, just be mindful that the color and the smell are really good indicators.
Exactly. And the other thing I wanted to add to that is like dark, as in dark brown or dark yellow, is an indicator that something's off.
Yeah.
And also, like in the morning, my first pee is darker in color because throughout the night I haven't drank water, my body has detoxified. That is normal. And then throughout the day, once I've drank my first cup of tea and the second, then I can see how it becomes lighter and lighter yellow throughout the day. So that is also something that you need to understand for yourself, how it is behaving throughout a day.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I say, like what's normal for you, because you could be drinking a certain type of tea or like that's making it a certain color. So I could say to you, be mindful of this color wee, but if you've drank something that makes it's really hard to give a clear indicator without knowing what you're actually the input that's coming in.
So we've got it again, like input versus output. What's the frequency? What is your color and smell? And then the third, you already touched on that, is like, do you feel empty when you've emptied your bladder or not? And if not, that could be also an indication of any sort of infection. Or it could be that you've just not completely emptied your bladder, in which case the toilet stool would be amazing, like the toilet step to put your feet on, to elevate your feet and your knees to have a more optimal position to release anything from your body.
Yeah, and making sure that when you're going to the toilet, you're relaxed and giving yourself time. Like we've said before, like it's a waste of time, it's inconvenient. Like if you're rushing to the toilet and sitting down and you're like, I need to get out of here quickly because I'm going on to the next task, or like I'm running late or whatever it is, your body's not going to relax and allow for that fully emptying to happen. So be mindful of that as well. Like give yourself time to have a good wee. Yeah. Okay, so
I think this is a good, like it has given folks a lot, like a bigger idea, and also hopefully sparked some inspiration.
Absolutely. And as always, we are here and ready and willing to receive your comments, like anything that's coming up for you, anything that you would like us to dive deeper into. I know that we've touched on a lot of topics here. So if there's anything that you're like, oh, I'd be really interested to hear more about that, then please let us know. We would love, love, love to do that. And yeah, like I'm just really excited about this episode because it is just so important to have these conversations. And as I've said before, from a young age, because that's when we start to create our internal narrative consciously and subconsciously around these topics. So thank you so much for listening to us. We are here to serve you if you need us, and you can drop a comment below or email us. All the links will be in the show notes. And yeah, thank you so much, and we look forward to catching you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.